You didn't say anything about having someone with you. Certainly not one of her kind.
Excuse me?
Her kind?
Yeah, a redhead. And a hot one at that.
Oh. Isn't that your own floor?
If you're tired of the typical Hollywood shit, Serial Rabbit 5 is the movie for you. Completely irreverent and politically incorrect.
Where is he, you fat fuck?
Oh, so now we're fat shaming. Nice.
Watch it free now on Amazon Prime. A link is in the description.
Why do you gotta call me a bitch? Do you call your male friends a bitch?
No, I call them dicks, pricks, assholes, douchebags, dumbasses, cocksuckers, shitheads, and motherfuckers.
What up, you flaming bundle of sticks? Terrence Popp here with Redonkulous.com. Winning. This is Bad Popp here. I got the whole menagerie of booze and a whole truckload of bad news. And more booze over here. And this bad news is for men. It's all our fault. And I mean, it's all our fault. All the way from the economy to single motherhood and Twilight. What the fuck? We all know that's pure unfiltered bullshit. But that's what Drake Bear at Business Insider wants us to believe.
Why American men are becoming less marriageable.
You smell that? Kinda smells like a sand-filled mangina with a side of cuck stew. And if you don't know what that is, it's a bread bowl filled full of bratwurst and clam chowder. I'm sure that gets real messy. Yeah.
If it seems like the number of complaints from your female friends about not being able to find a man is growing, we may finally know why. Somewhere between 1979 and 2008, Americans decided it was much less worth it to get hitched.
We were somewhere around 1979, at the edge of the desert, where the drugs began to take hold.
And that drug was called the birth control pill. Screen 5. Welcome to the era of sexual liberation where they throw pussy at the wall like bread dough and see what sticks. Because men and women are obviously physically and mentally equal, right? Wrong. Women are biologically hardwired to develop an emotional attachment to the men that they sleep with. What? So when they bang a dude, their bodies release, what is it called? Oxytocin. That helps them pair bond, which builds trust and empathy, which I don't have any of. But you feminist fucking fucks deregulated the whole sexual marketplace. You kept your legs open for that flood of cock, kind of like Walmart on a Black Friday. Let's get dark in here. You abused the absolute shit out of that mechanism until you broke the goddamn dick counter, and now you can't pair bond anymore. And now, surprise, surprise, you're all pissed off because your value tanked, kind of like the Great Depression. I guess that explains why so many of you are on head meds. Yeah, winning. Because you were stupid enough to listen to the feminists who told you where your value to a man truly lies, like they would fucking know. Let me ask you something. You get your house appraised before you're gonna sell it, right? Are you gonna call some pink-haired bitch who works at Hot Topic to do that for you? Fuck no, you're not.
You're an idiot.
The hair where I'm working or both?
Hair makes you look like a hooker.
The share of 25 to 39-year-old women who were currently married fell 10% among those with college degrees, 15% for those with some college, and a full 20% for women with a high school education or less.
I'm gonna tell you a story that I've seen many times over my 33 years in the Army. You're marching through the desert, you see a snake, it's an asp. It's clearly poisonous, and all you really have to do is just fucking ignore it. But, you know that was coming. Fast forward 10 minutes and you're getting fucking medevaced out with a gushing wound of blood and snake venom. And when you get to the rear, that doctor's gonna ask you one question. Were you fucking with it? In this scenario, men are the fucking snake. Just leave us the fuck alone and everyone will get by just fine. But feminists and their leftist butt buddies, they want those wage slaves so bad, they just have to fuck with the snake. And now they're laid up sorry in some hospital bed, crying about how they're a victim of a snake bite. What? And they're gonna die of that toxic masculinity. What? Guess what, you rabid cocksuckers? You did it to yourselves.
This great American marriage decline, a drop from 72% of US adults being wed in 1960 to half in 2014, is usually chalked up to gains in women's rights, the normalization of divorce, and the like.
That sounds pretty reasonable because, I don't know, it's factually accurate. But this explanation isn't pinning all of that blame on men, so you're obviously going to find something wrong with it.
But it also has a lot to do with men.
Welcome to the blame game. You just fucking lost. You think packing my bags for a guilt trip and then piling on all the blame and shame is gonna make me put a ring on your finger? Oh, hell no. Especially now, it is 2019. You have been doing this for half a century and us dudes know the deal. It took long enough, but we are learning from your mistakes. But you didn't do it alone, you had help. Here at the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham and Howe, our practice attorneys have been crushing men under the wheels of bureaucracy for the past 50 years. Hey, I'm just being honest here. Did you know over 80% of divorces are filed by, you guessed it, women? And their soon-to-be ex-husbands are paying 100% of our bills. So ladies, call now and start your journey to be a strong, independent woman who lives on alimony, child support, and government handouts. Screen 5. Call the number below, 1-800-838-8487. And if you mention this ad, we'll throw in the silver bullet option for you for free. That's when we accuse them of abuse and molestation. Don't you worry about proof. We don't need any. We're attorneys. All we're really looking for is your husband's money, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it. So please call the offices of Dewey, Cheatham and Howe today. That's 1-800-838-8487. And if that's too hard to remember, dial 1-800-WET-TITS. Winning! I can't imagine why dudes of today don't want to get married. Oh, Space Ghost is on.
Namely, economic forces are making them less appealing partners, and it ties into everything from China to opioids.
Oh no. Oh shit. And here we go. You libtards are always saying it's the conservatives that are the conspiracy theorists. And then you trot out this fucking pony and expect us to take it serious. Oh my god! That is some high-grade stupid bullshit. It's kind of like Gucci bullshit that people don't buy unless you're a woman. Screen 5.
Want to retire someplace on the planet where the women look like this? I thought you did, but if you want to know how, first you need to go to MGTOWbooks.com and purchase MGTOW's Guide to Retiring on 200K in Southeast Asia. Don't forget to use the promo code POPP, that's P-O-P-P, for 10% off. A link is in the description.
The most revealing data comes from University of Zurich economist David Dorn.
Oh, that's right. When I want to take the pulse of what's going on in America, I'll go all the way to Switzerland.
In a 2017 paper with an ominous title, When Work Disappears, Manufacturing Decline and the Falling Marriage Market Value of Men, Dorn and his colleagues crunched the numbers from 1990 to 2014. They found that employability and marriageability are deeply intertwined.
If your testicles weren't so filled with vaginal quim, you would realize you touched on a nugget of truth here. And that nugget is called hypergamy. You know all about that, gentlemen. It's just like misandry. And the fembots claim that doesn't exist either.
Fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating.
You dipshit! Misandry is a theory, you idiot! Misandry isn't real! Spider-Man isn't real!
We need to kill all men.
They're fucking aliens. They're fucking parasites.
If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop.
Even as they write articles bragging about them being a bunch of monkey-branching whores. I made a video about it. Here it is.
The flashpoint is a sector of the economy that politicians love to talk about. Manufacturing. It used to be a huge slice of the employment pie. In 1990, 21.8% of employed men and 12.9% of employed women worked in manufacturing. By 2007, it had shrunk to 14.1% and 6.8%.
Well, fuck you very much, NAFTA and the Clintons. Oh, Space Ghost is on.
Who are you gonna call?
I'm gonna call you an idiot.
What?
You heard me. Mouth breather.
You're actually blaming dudes for being less marriageable because their jobs were outsourced to China. Are you fucking kidding me? Here's the picture of that racist, rapist, traitor cunt who made it all possible, and you probably voted for him. But, a man, he passed that law, and he happens to be white. So that makes it my fault too, right? Wah? No.
So we have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men.
But, again, if he was a Muslim, you wouldn't blame all Muslims. I see where this is going.
The jobs are often dangerous and physically demanding, giving a sense of solidarity with coworkers.
No shit, Sherlock. I've been saying that for the past 5 years on this show. Men like to do the dud jobs. That means dirty, uncomfortable, and dangerous. Oh, and guess what? Risk equals reward, so they pay more. But, stat coming your way. 94% of the dirt darts on the job are men. And for all that hard work, blood, dedication, and death, we get blamed for everything, and it's called male privilege. Screen 5. Fuck that.
Not coincidentally, these jobs are also incredibly male-dominated, becoming even more so between 1990 and 2010.
And you want to know why? Because it rhymes. Women don't want to die. They're 8 times more likely to accept poverty wages and 100 times more likely to bitch about it.
But since 1980, a full third of all manufacturing jobs, 5 million since 2000, have evaporated, making guys less appealing as husbands.
You realize that you are admitting that women are a bunch of money-grubbing skanks, right?
Dorn and his colleagues find that when towns and counties lose manufacturing jobs, fertility and marriage rates among young adults go down too. Unmarried births and the share of children living in single-parent homes go up.
That kind of sounds like a leftist utopia to me. Screen 5. Somewhere in D.C., AOC is fiddling herself right now looking at a picture of Bernie Sanders.
Meanwhile, places with higher manufacturing employment have a bigger wage gap between men and women and a higher marriage rate.
Because that is called traditional marriage, and it makes women happier.
It underscores how in the US the norms around money, marriage, and gender remained, perhaps surprisingly, traditional.
There's a very simple reason for that. It works. Moving on. Men make the money and take charge of the home. Women spend the money and take care of the home. Everyone works together, everything gets done, and everyone is happy. And maybe on Sunday, she'll make him a sandwich while he watches the game, and then she'll suck his dick when the kids are playing in the yard because that's called tradition. Screen 5.
Marianne Bertrand, an economist at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business, has found a cliff in relative income in American marriages at the 50-50 split mark. While there are lots of couples where he earns 55% of their combined income, there are relatively few where she makes more than he does.
Look here, bitch. I know you're trying to blame men and paint this grand picture of inequality, but 40% of women out-earn their husbands, so the statement relatively few is a fucking lie. Perhaps if you want to be taken seriously as an economist, you should, I don't know, study the economy first.
While the pay gap is certainly a factor here, Bertrand and her colleagues argue that the asymmetry owes more to traditional gender roles and remains a class issue.
Stop right there. Time out. I'm throwing down the 10-yard bullshit flag. Let's go. There is no wage gap anywhere. Not here, not there. In fact, I made a video about it. Here it is, and check it out. So, of course, the only economist who believes in this bullshit just happens to be a woman. So, ladies, if you're sick of making less money than a man, quit making shitty decisions and take it like a man. Screen 5.
They reference recent results from the World Values Survey, where respondents were asked how much they agreed with the claim that if a woman earns more money than her husband, it's almost certain to cause problems. The results broke along socioeconomic lines. 28% of couples where both parties went to at least some college agreed, while 45% of couples where neither partner went beyond high school agreed. Spouses tend to be less happy, more likely to think the marriage is in trouble, and more likely to discuss separation if the wife out-earns her husband as well.
First of all, by your own admission, women are gold-digging sluts. Second of all, a survey does not represent factual information. And you want to know why? Everyone lies.
Except me. To you. Would never do that.
Third of all, 80% of all divorces are filed by women. So it doesn't matter what couples agree with it or not. Because half of those guys are now homeless and living in a refrigerator box. Screen 5, no, fuck that.
As manufacturing jobs are lost, there are also increases to mortality in men aged 18 to 39, Dorn says. with more deaths from liver disease, indicative of alcohol abuse, more deaths from diabetes related to obesity, and lung cancer related to smoking, not to mention drug overdoses. These deaths of despair have taken over 1 million American lives in the past decade.
But don't even say it. That's male privilege too, right, Space Ghost?
Ofer Sharon, a sociologist at the University of Massachusetts, has found that while Israelis blame the system when they can't find a job, Americans see themselves as flawed when they can't find work, which sounds a lot like perfectionism.
To me, that kind of sounds like taking personal responsibility, but that could just be my generation. What can I say?
And remarkably, half of the unemployed men in the US are on some sort of painkiller.
And a lot of dudes who are drawing unemployment are also getting workman's comp because they got hurt on the job. There you go.
Unremarkably, all that makes long-term monogamy less appealing. This is consistent with the notion that males become less attractive partners because they have less money and start doing drugs, Dorn says.
Don't you love when leftists make an argument, they roll two separate things into the same sentence? Women will leave you when you have less money, and they'll leave you if you're spending that money on drugs. If it's the latter, I would say that's a rational response because drugs come with a whole other set of fucking problems. But, you knew I was going to say that now, didn't you? You notice I didn't say you were wrong, but when you're a hypocrite, this is the internet and someone's going to call you out on it. These same women who don't want a dude who's hooked on painkillers,
I can't be with a dude that's hooked on painkillers, oh my god!
They will lose their shit when a tier 1 dude refuses to write a check against a woman on head meds. He got hurt on the job when he fell 2 stories. You got PTSD from Twitter. Who needs to really hand in their pills here? Suddenly, we all have to be tolerant and end the stigma of mental illness, right? We all know what happens when you try to normalize mental illness. You get this.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was a general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said sir.
The precarious situation that American men face has a lot to do with the nature of the jobs they're doing. Germany and Switzerland, which are bleeding manufacturing at a much slower rate, do more precision work, like watches and cars, which is harder to ship overseas to hand over to robots and algorithms. Traditionally masculine American blue-collar jobs tend toward repetitive tasks, making them easier to replace. One British estimate predicted that 35% of traditionally male jobs in the UK are at high risk of being automated, compared with 26% of traditionally female jobs.
You hear that, all you Fight for 15 socialist cucks out there? Go ahead, keep fucking around and demanding higher wages for the jobs that even a monkey can do. And the only paper you will be collecting will have your call number on it at the unemployment office, screen 5.
There's a race to automate trucking, a traditionally male role, but not so much nursing.
Of course not. This push towards socialism would end today if women got true equality. Rational human beings know that socialism cannot work, and it has never worked, and it has failed every time in the past. That is why our Western civilization had to be corrupted by leftists and reorganized into a safe space for emotional cripples. Where?
All white people are racist, all men are misogynistic, all cisgender people are transphobic, all members of a majority are biased against the members of the minority or oppressed group.
You're stupid.
And if you think I'm full of shit, take a look at the first prototypes of the Soviet Americans elected into Congress. All I can say is I hope I die of natural causes before the next Civil War, but that's just wishful thinking.
The bro next door encapsulates the life of Chad. He is the pinnacle, the legend. He can do no wrong. Women want him, and men want to be him. His memoir is as absurd as his attitude. A link is in the description.
And the working class jobs that are being added tend toward what's traditionally taken to be women's work. These are not trends that add to the marketability of guys. The lack of good jobs for these men is making them less and less attractive to women in the marriage market, and women with their greater earnings can do fine remaining single, says Bertrand, the Chicago economist. For gender identity reasons, these men may not want to enter into marriages with women who are dominating them economically, even if this would make economic sense to them.
If you have not yet poured your menagerie of alcohol, now is the time to get started because I'm boiling down 70 years of bullshit right here. Let's roll back the time machine here to World War II. Dudes are being drafted hand over fist to fight on 2 different fronts. As a result, the ladies back home were recruited into everything from baseball to factory work.
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball!
And the employers over here said, holy shit, there is an untapped labor force we could have been exploiting all along. But there was a catch. To use that resource, they had to destroy the nuclear family and free up the ladies to go into the workforce. So over the course of the past 50 years, a few key things happened. Number one, corporate lobbyists became normal in politics of today. The politicians' loyalty shifted from the constituents to the fucking donors. Number two, in the 1960s, we all of a sudden needed a war on poverty. Where? Lyndon Johnson sold this bullshit door to fucking door, links in the description.
You have rights to free money, but if you want to get your hands on that free money, you gotta kick the man out of the house.
This one act created the welfare state as we know it today. And it ignited a racial holocaust which is burning brighter year after year after year.
People knocked on doors, apprising women of their availability to welfare, provided there was no man in the house. And we went from 25% of blacks being born outside of wedlock in '65 to 75% right now. And you look at how much money that we spent on welfare, and the lines are parallel.
And number three, no-fault divorce gets ratified in all 50 states by the end of the 1970s. And that created a perfect storm that destroyed relationships between men and women. Fast forward 40 years and 51% of all children now being born out of wedlock. And the millennial males have testosterone counts lower than 80-year-old males in wheelchairs. Number four, leftists like Bill Ayers and Ted Kennedy radicalized the education system to the left, using it to push identity politics and anti-religion propaganda. So today, we have no God and 120 genders and counting. And why is that? They saw what Hitler was doing and thought it was a good idea. But they knew the reason why he failed. He tried to use force. If you want to create generations of mental slaves who will vote for socialism, you have to convince them that it's a good idea, right? And you have to keep them all fighting amongst themselves so they never see the strings of the puppet master.
They want ultimately for people to be angry enough to just keep voting Democrat.
That's right. And where's the evidence of the lack of social justice?
You hear that, leftists? You know that evil patriarchy you're fighting against? You're their slave. Their drone. You're doing their dirty work for them, and you think it's a good idea.
No, it's not true. That's impossible!
Most men of today, they can see this coming, and they're choosing not to play. Articles like this are specifically written to shame us to try to bring us back onto the plantation.
So what's a man to do within change like this? Dorn recommends, if one is able, to specialize in areas that are harder to automate, jobs that require problem solving and creativity. But those jobs often require more education.
So you've engineered this entire crisis, and for them to fix it, I'm supposed to go 6 figures in debt to attend one of your commie camps. Fuck off.
So we begin with the fact that we exist in a white supremacist, patriarchal, heteronormative capitalist system. And that's the beauty of the law. If you can write it, you can convince all others to follow it, just like all of us do today, when we shouldn't. Many of the laws existing, we should be violating those laws.
Then comes the much woollier, complex issue of gender norms. There are individual choices to be made at the personal level for men to take on traditionally feminine work, or for heterosexual couples to settle on a situation where the wife brings home the bacon. But these individual choices don't happen in a vacuum. They're necessarily informed by the broader culture.
So let me get this straight. You're using gender norms to blame men for not wanting to do women's work. But you come from a political ideology which claims gender is just a social construct.
Gender was a social construct before and still is now, but how we construct it has changed. Now we can say that your gender is based on how you identify because we realized that basing gender on perceived sex was oppressive.
Biological sex is a myth.
Something about sex I don't think many people are familiar with, however, is that it's a social construct.
There's absolutely no part of that sentence that is true.
So, according to your own rationale, I don't have to listen to a goddamn thing you're saying. Oh, Space Ghost is on.
Would you mind just not bringing that up right now?
No! Let's talk about it!
Traditional masculinity is standing in the way of working class men's employment, Johns Hopkins sociologist Andrew Cherlin said in an interview.
And now we have it, the single stupidest thing and the anchor for this entire article. Dude, I know you think you're smart because you went to college and all that, but sociology isn't really a science. Wah. There's a reason why social workers are poorer than the chicks that R. Kelly used to piss on. Because we don't pay a living wage to people who pretend for a living, unless they're actors. Screen 5. At that point, it's kind of a toss-up to which one of you is more worthless.
You see what he did there?
Your social brainwashing isn't working on all men, just the ones raised by single mothers. So your solution is to double down on the brainwashing like that's gonna work. Which is why it's become fashionable for corporations to make commercials dumping on all men for being toxic. Guess what? It's not working. People are waking up to it, and it will continue to fail. Stop trying to turn men into women. It's gonna blow up in your face.
Having a vagina doesn't make you a female.
Men can have periods too.
It doesn't make it true, and no, they can't. You're just pissed that your leftist stranglehold over our entire culture is slipping and coming to an end. There's a paradigm shift on the horizon, and you pinko fembots, you're gonna be left behind. That's why you're screaming all of the typical insults and clamoring for censorship for anybody who has a differing opinion. Here's a shocker. Want to smell it? No. You're losing. Generation Z, they're waiting in the wings. They're the most conservative group of jailbait since World War II. Once they turn 18, you're fucking gone. And all of this shit you're trying to ram down our throats like a diseased pea ice, it's gonna get bitten off and spit back in your face. At the end of the day, you brought all of this unhappiness on yourselves. And I can guarantee you, when you're circling that drain of death, you're gonna have the epiphany that you are the problem all along. Because you're lazy, envious, easily manipulated fools. And you're too stupid to realize that the government is your biggest frenemy. You lean on it for support, you suck it dry and swallow up all that welfare. And then you actually have the balls to be shocked when you hit the wall and it actually stabs you in the back. Because in reality, it doesn't give a shit about you anymore because you just outlived your usefulness. And now you're probably old, poor, and powerless, and fat, probably forgotten. Want some ice cream? Wah? You know what I wish? I wish we could go just one day without one of these bullshit articles being published that blames men for everything. But if that was to actually happen, I'd run out of material for this show. And this show is my therapy, and it is my excuse to drink a lot. With that being said, I'm finally taking off the tinfoil hat and putting back on the thinking cap, if you know what I mean. And gentlemen, and you few ladies out there, if you like this show, check out the links below for Patreon, PayPal, and Subscribe Star. Send us a couple bucks because this shit is expensive. And if that's not your bag and you want some swag, go to patrolbase.net, get yourself some shirts and mugs. But say you're new to this channel and you're still just want to check it out. Hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're notified when we make new videos. And if you don't, that's fine. I don't care because that's just chick work anyway. God damn it! Ah! I hate you sometimes. Who lives on alimony, child support, and government handouts? Screen 5. Please call today. Don't waste any time because our smooth operators, they're standing by for you.